All right. Welcome back. You're listening to Clay 1180 AM. I'm Tyler Freed, and this is a community real estate talk show. Got a really, really good friend, Meredith Thielbahr here, and she's with Groff Murphy Law Firm. And she's going to be telling us a little bit about the world of being a lawyer. Mare, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good. What's an average day like for you?
Well, you know, they say that there's an expression that it takes if you think it's expensive to hire an expert, hire an amateur. So a lot of times people think, you know, we're mouthpieces all day long, we're talking, but really, I mean, most of my day is spent writing, researching, I'm talking to my clients, talking with my partners, talking with other associates, strategizing, but very little time is spent in the courtroom. So I am a litigator, but I would say we try to prevent problems before they happen. They happen, and we fix them. But most of my time is in the office, doing discovery. But again, very little time is spent out in the courtroom. It's fun when we get to do that, but it's much more infrequent than you would think.
And Meredith is also a fellow Coug.
Yes.
Go Cougs.
Yep.
Can you give us a background on how much schooling it took and how much fun all those tests were?
Oh, they were great. So I'm from Seattle, from Bothell. Went to Inglemoor High School here. My brother was a Coug. So I kind of was a little biased. I applied to University of Washington, applied to Washington State, got into both, choose the Cougs. Went over there, did 4 years, graduated I think in 2006, went right into law school, came back for law school, went to Seattle University, lived at home during law school. It's a great university. It's got a nationally known legal writing program, which, like I said, that's what we do most of the time is we write. So that was a big focus for me in choosing my law school, but it's a regional law school. So if you want to stay and practice in Oregon, Washington, Idaho, it's a great, well-known law school. So came back, did that. That took 3 years, graduated in 2009, took the bar in the summer, and I am now in my 5th year of practice. So during law school, I was a summer associate at another construction litigation firm. I do construction litigation here in Seattle. It's a little bit bigger firm. Never really had a primary interest in doing construction. Wanted to do contract law, which is a lot of what I do. And so that's kind of where I focused. I wanted to be a litigator and do contract work, and just kind of fell into a great construction firm. The people in that field are wonderful. Real estate, construction, great clients. And then this last year, about a little over a year ago, I moved to a little bit smaller firm that also does construction litigation. So I'm just starting my 5th year of practice.
So after law school, did they help get you placed with a firm, or how does that work?
They do. So in the beginning of your 2nd year, law school's 3 years. They do what is called on-campus interviews. It's very competitive. Classmates are just, biting at the chomp for that. And you interview with firms in the Seattle area. So there's a lot of firms that don't do on-campus interviews, but some of the bigger firms do that. Most are from the Seattle area for Seattle University, but like if you go to Harvard or another school, they might fly you places. I focused on Seattle. I looked at a few firms on the east side of the state, but I wanted to stay in the Seattle area. So you do that in the first semester of your 2nd year, and then that following summer you usually intern, and then generally you will get a full-time offer. Now, that was the summer of 2008, and so that was kind of right when 2007, so that was kind of when the economy was getting a little bit bad. So I was fortunate enough that I was still placed in my firm, but I know a lot of my classmates, it kind of got deferred, but things are picking up now, which is great. But
You said you're doing a lot of prep work, and you don't get to spend much time in the. Do you get into the courtroom?
I
though?
do.
Okay.
I do.
What's that feel like?
It's good. It's for, less than we've been talking here. I mean, generally you get up in front of a judge. If it's just a motion or something, you talk for 45 seconds and the judge doesn't want to hear much more, and that's it. So, I've been to a couple trials, which is interesting. Those in construction, they generally are longer trials. I've been to some that have been 2 months. I've been to some that have been a couple weeks. But it's fun. I mean, you kind of you prepare for days for, 2 minutes of oral argument, and it's kind of an out-of-body experience, but I still love it every time I get to do it. So
Construction law. So is this stuff where they're going after construction companies, or is it various types? Is it ATRs? I mean, what kind of stuff is it usually?
Well, so the firm I'm with, we generally represent general contractors, prime contractors in commercial projects, or I do a lot of stuff with the federal government. So their clients are the federal government, whether that be a Department of Energy or Department of Defense contract. We don't do as much owner work. We will. I mean, we do some real estate law. So that's from, dirt up. So we could review your purchase and sale agreement, and which is always better than waiting until there's a problem down the road. We could look at your leases. We could work at the construction contract, the design and engineering contract, look at all that before, and then also carry all the way through project and post completion. So you could have change orders, you could have differing site conditions during project, and then after project you could have defect claims or to dealing with tenants, tenant dispute, lease disputes. So that's a little bit more on the real estate side. Now I focus my practice in federal contracting. So, especially kind of with the downturn in private work, you see a lot of contractors going into the federal arena, and that's a whole different ballgame. So when you're working with the federal government, you've got a whole set of regulations that's governing what you're doing. So you'll see a lot of, I do a lot of small business regulation work. So you'll have a big contractor that's going to team with a small women-owned or a veteran-owned, because otherwise they're not going to be eligible for that work, because the government can set aside, X amount of dollars and say, we want a small business to do this work. And then you're subject to all sorts of regulations. And if you don't do it right, you can get in a big problem. So that's kind of my niche and where I focus my work. And I've liked it quite a bit, but...
So if there is a problem, that's when you come in and make sure they're following those regulations and guidelines?
Yeah, unfortunately, when it comes to that stuff, that's usually we get involved later. It's too bad that we don't get involved earlier. If you're going to team, if you're a big contractor and you want to team with a little guy, call your lawyer before and make sure that they're going to self-perform a certain percentage of that work, because they have to do that. Make sure they have the correct size status. If you're a women-owned small business, you've got to be 51% owned by a female. Sometimes, down the road, if that's challenged, any, pay app that you've made on that contract, the government could come back and say, that's a false claim. That was an improper affiliation, and we're going to take you for damages. And then usually they're trebled, which that's like times 3. So it can get very expensive very quickly.
Is that always the most efficient way to do it? I mean, it just seems like...
What do you mean most efficient?
Having to, have standards of who to work with and for
Well,
particular jobs and stuff.
It's a great program. Especially now, that's kind of an up and coming thing to team with smaller subs, because they want a certain amount of work to go to those types of to businesses, which is great. But unfortunately, instead of a sole source, if it's a competitively sourced contract, do those small businesses have the experience to do that? Should they be out in Hanford doing cleanup work, and do they have the experience to do it? So a lot of times they'll get in this affiliation because they want the award. And then it's like, okay, well, we're going to step in and actually do more of this work, and then you get yourself into trouble. So that's kind of where we step in. But
how about anything on the viaduct? Have you looked at any of the upcoming stuff going on with that and the bookings? And
no, we haven't been involved in that. I suspect maybe in 5-6 years we will be. I mean, I think a lot of construction lawyers in the city will be. Maybe same with 520. It'll be interesting to see. But we have such a leg on our projects, so it's... a lot of our clients are involved in the work, but it'll be interesting to see, down the road as far as completion and things that happen. It's usually like 4 or 5 years later that then we get involved.
Is it common for people to start up their own firms once they get into it? Is that something that happens like 20 years down the road, or have you ever thought of that?
As an attorney or a construction firm?
Attorney.
Yeah, it is. I mean, my firm I'm at currently, we have about 5 partners and 3 associates, and we all have big firm experience from top down, the partners all the way down to the associates, which is just phenomenal, because you kind of get that great sense of camaraderie, but you've had the big firm experience. So we have the resources, we have the knowledge base, but unlike a big firm where you might close your door and just work by yourself, it's phenomenal. I go down and knock on my partner's door, Dave Groff, Mike Murphy, and just say, hey, can I talk this out with you, talk this out loud, because there's not a day that goes by that we don't pick each other's brains, So you do see that. You do see big firms where sometimes a partner will branch off. I would say generally it's like, 15, 20 years. You have a lot of people that do kind of sole practitioner, just depending on the type they work. But I would say in construction, if you can find a firm like Groff Murphy that's got big experience and knows what they're doing and is focused, I mean, that's key. Construction is a whole different ballgame. So you definitely want to get a construction lawyer that knows what they're doing.
And that mentoring probably makes a big difference to have that available there.
Yeah, it does. It's phenomenal. I mean, not a day goes by that I don't laugh. That makes the practice fun. It's all about the people you work with. I mean, you could go to any firm and you're going to be looking at the same type of contracts. You're going to be dealing with similar, if you're construction, similar types of clients, but it's really the people you work with and the people you surround yourself with. So I've really liked my last year, and I hope to stay there for a long time, and it's a great place.
Nice. What made you choose them?
Well, I was kind of looking, I had been at my other firm for almost 4 years, and so that's kind of a good, as you're an associate, that's kind of a good time to make that jump. You certainly don't want to move around all the time. I loved my old firm; it was a great place, but I knew I wanted to focus more on federal contracting, and that's what I'm doing now. And so it just kind of happened it worked out. It was a good timing, and they were hiring, and it's small, so it's a hard place to get into. I know, but it worked out. It was great.
Let's go back to the bar, because it's fascinating to me, this test.
Oh.
What kind of, how long does one have to study for that?
The studying is not bad, I think, because it's just so brutal that they only make you do it for 2 months, but that's all you're going to do. So I think I graduated early May, and then I started June 1, and I took the bar at the end of July. So I was about 10 hours a day, every day. Luckily, my husband was still a college football coach. He was not around. But it's pretty brutal. And I said, if I don't pass this, I don't know if I'm going to take this thing again. So luckily I passed the first time. But, it's interesting, law school. I think a lot of people want to go to law school. It's great. I mean, you can use it in business. You can use it in anything. It's wonderful. If you want to do it and you want to put the effort into it, it's very expensive. But I would say try to get an internship or go hang out with a lawyer someday. Not even a litigator. Go hang out with a transactional lawyer, or just see what they do every day, because it's kind of a misconception what we do. And see if you really like it before you invest in your time and your money, because it's a lot of work. So. Did
you always want to be an attorney?
I did. I think probably in junior high. I think my reasons changed. I think when I was younger, I just, that's so cool to be a lawyer. And then as I got older, I said, I really want to help people. And I don't think that people see that in lawyers as much as we do. And if you haven't had the opportunity to work with a lawyer and you maybe liked the results, maybe if you didn't like the results, I don't know. But I might be on a case for 3 years, and it's tough. You don't get a lot of reciprocity from the client. And then all of a sudden they're like, thank you for saving my business. It's not just a little one transaction. It's like, you saved my business. And that's a great feeling to help people like that.
So we just got time for one more question. What's the future bring for Meredith?
More of what I'm doing. I'm very happy, and definitely going to keep being a litigator and keep being a lawyer, and going to Eastside Catholic football on Friday night. So looking forward to that.
There we go. Well, thanks for joining us, Meredith. Go Cougs.
Thanks. Go Cougs.
All right. Good to see you.
You too.
You're listening to Clay 1180 AM. I'm your host, Tyler Freed, on the Community Real Estate Talk Show. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll catch you next Saturday. Go Cougs.